Hey, I noticed one thing. People like to compare different people to guys when they lose or they look boring in different fights and saying that certain guys can't win. I got a question real quick. Why nobody's questioning that Ryan Garcia performance wasn't as good against Tank as Frank Martin? Frank Martin only started boxing, what, 12 years ago? 11, 12 years ago? And he's already doing a better job in the pros against guys like Tank Davis than Ryan Garcia has. I wonder why nobody questions stuff like that. Because usually, I hear guys recently, they'll say, well, this fighter did good against X, Y, and Z, so I know he can't beat this guy. For example, people will say, well, Devin Haney got washed by uh, Ryan Garcia, so I know Tank can beat him. But look how good Frank Martin did against Tank compared to what Ryan Garcia did. And he didn't quit. So, how was that not a performance that's looked at as a good performance? Lately, nobody has done as good as Frank Martin has boxing Tank Davis. So that kind of shows a lot too when you see what Ryan Garcia did against him. Because people they like to use the pyramid, the whole theory, just to, uh, and it's not really, it don't work like that, man. It just don't. Nobody can say, hey, Hector Garcia was in the ninth round, and that was a 130. So that was a 130 pounder to last to the ninth round. And we all know Eastside Cruz 12 rounds. And I noticed another thing too, like on Tate's resume. Well, I'll say that for later on. It's not about him. But overall, I just never noticed that. Frank Martin, he did a better job than most of these guys, especially Ryan Garcia. And I don't really see anybody giving him credit for that at all. And it was a very close fight. Very, very close fight. I think Tate was up by like a round or something like that. But it was a very close fight. So that's one thing I haven't noticed. I haven't noticed people saying how good Frank Martin was compared to other boxers that Tank went against. Because when you look at Ryan Garcia when he faced Tank, and then when he faced Devin Haney, people like to compare those two. But I wonder why they don't never compare Ryan Garcia's performance with Tank. The last two guys that Tank fought, why you don't compare those two guys' performances? I don't understand that. That's usually what they do in certain situations. But if I was them, I would be looking at what Frank Martin did and what Ryan Garcia did. Then I would take into consideration that people said they failed the PED test. So what he did against Tank Davis and what Frank Martin did, a guy who's been boxing for 11, 12 years, I just never noticed that people don't compare those two performances. Because now I'm starting to look at it, I'm like, yeah, Frank Martin did do slightly better than what Ryan Garcia did. Because Ryan Garcia don't get a lot of credit about what he did against Tank Davis. So, and Frank Martin, if you see what he did in the fight with Tank Davis, he could have did a lot more better than, he left a lot on the table. But he also did an excellent job with what he had. So, compared to what these other guys have done, and they've been boxing since they were small, since they were young. And this is a guy who started boxing late in the game. And for him to perform like that, yeah, I feel like he needs a little more credit when you compare these other guys. I feel like he did a good job. But I just wanted to bring that up real quick because I didn't want to let that thought get away from me. But yeah, people do a lot of comparing, but I haven't heard those two performances really compared to each other. And we talking about performances where Ryan Garcia wasn't knocking down guys as many times like that in previous fights. And also when you compare the last couple of fights he's had, when he struggled against Duarte before stopping him, and then the Tank Davis fight. You know, it's just when you look at Frank Martin and what he did, it just tells a lot. But that's all I got. Like and subscribe.